to give it up to Mwafreeka, manze. I think this is what most I would expect from most podcasts. You need to do as much civic education as you can. Remember, mainstream media is practically dead right now. Young people are listening to podcasts, and if in this podcast you can actually encourage your listeners to go out and vote as early as now, to come out in huge numbers and vote out Ruto on in 2027, even better. I have no doubt that there'll be a huge voter turnout coming this 2027. But we all know where majority of the boomers and the older millennials votes are going to, because these motherfuckers are tribal as fuck and ignorant. Unajua, for you to be tribal, you really need to be like super ignorant. And most of the boomers and the older millennials are super ignorant. Ruto too will come in the year 2027 na uongo zake, na atawaingiza tu box the same way aliwaingiza box hii 2022 wakampigia kura. So I guess the elections will mostly be determined by the young people. There are other bigger YouTubers out here with huge numbers, with huge subscribers, with youth from youth from what we call, should I say, marginalized places who listen to them, youth from the villages. Hata nitasemaje, unajua there's like the cool unajua the cool kids, yeah, of course the cool kids listen to people, to nini podcast like the Mic Check podcast, the Sandwich podcast, hizo ma Init podcast, and hizo au ni ma cool kids ama the cool Gen Zs. Then sisi the cool millennials, or rather the younger millennials, we listen to podcasts like Mwafreeka's podcast Iko Nini. We listen to podcasts like Jagero Dialogues with Jagero podcast. So nini nitasemaje, kila podcast iko na audience wake. Then Lynn Ngugi actually used to have like nitasemaje, Lynn Ngugi used to like attract all types of all types of audiences on her YouTube channel, up until people realized that she's, you know, huge on pushing this bullshit feminist agenda. Mpaka sasa she lost like a huge chunk of her fan base, but she still has a considerable reasonable fan base or audience that listens to her, and she's also doing the Lord's work out in the street. So actually it's Obinna, Mwafreeka, and Lynn Ngugi. So big up to Lynn Ngugi for that as well. Actually sasa ndo ameanza ku reattract some of the audiences that used the audiences that used to listen to the audience rather that used to listen to her, people like me, cool people like me, because of the Lord's work that she's doing, the civic education that she's doing. And with Obinna, you know, Obinna is actually doing it in a very interesting way. Obinna actually invites people from Jacaranda. Wanakam wana inject. Obinna doesn't necessarily need to say shit. Wanakam wase wana inject, and that in that way they are doing the Lord's work. They are doing great civic education out here. And I think it's also high time Mr. Anonymous team, the man, the myth, the legend, the enigma, the amazing African Superman starts doing that shit as well. But what do I say? It's exactly what I'm doing. It's exactly what I'm doing here. So, you know, when you see things on X like people like Aoko being abducted for free speech, people like Hanifa being chased down in Kilifi by this lady calling herself Amina Mnyazi of civic education in Kilifi, then you just get pissed off bana. Mi nakwambia, mi naonaga naweza patana na politician mwingie tu mablo zingine mbaya sana, because it doesn't make sense. How do you send goons after a Kenyan citizen who is practicing her legal rights, her civic rights, her constitutional rights. This thing pisses me off, bro. Yo, come 2027, we need to vote out the tyrant, the dictator, William Ruto out of power. And one thing I disagree with Mwafreeka is when he says we should just put in anybody. Okay, anybody against Ruto is worth a try, because at least we've seen Ruto in power and Ruto is trash in power. However, I think if we could rile up, personally I feel if we could rile up behind someone like Oga Obinna, because Oga Obinna has a proven track record, or rather a proven history of fighting for, you know, our rights and freedoms, right? And I'd rather we rile up behind someone like that as opposed to someone like Kalonzo. Yes, I do understand that you cannot compare someone in power as president to when they were in power as MP. Kalonzo has done shit, totally nothing for his Sekuru constituency when he was MP. But you never know, as president he could be different. Mwafreeka actually gave an argument of Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki was a useless family man, never gave shit about his family, practically did close to nothing for his constituency, but when he became president, he did a whole lot of shit. Only shit I disagree with him is that the fact that this motherfucker lost the 2000 elections, refused to concede, and caused a lot of people losing their lives. You know, there's no excuse for bloodshed in a country. As much as people say in leadership, nini, you have to have blood on your hands. That's just the African narrative. The stupid, backward African narrative. USA ni wapi unaonanga leader kona blood on his hands, especially when it comes to his people. Fuck no, man. They don't give us that BS. So my pick would be Oga Obinna. But if Oga Obinna does not have the pull and all that shit, then maybe Kalonzo would do. Yeah, maybe Kalonzo would do, I guess. So yeah, so this was actually just what do you call it? Giving Obinna. This is just me giving Obinna, Lynn Ngugi, and Mwafreeka their flowers. You guys are doing a motherfucking great job with the civic education you're doing on your channels. Keep it up.